most of us in the modern world, because we're in enclosed walls, we're looking at our cell phones, we're looking at computer screens, we're drinking coffee and stimulants and all that. We stay in that go mode, and then eventually you burn the system out.
Here's JJ Virgin, triple board certified nutrition and fitness expert and 4-time New York Times best-selling author. It's time to reignite wellness.
What if you could do some subtle shifts to your daily routine, kind of learning a few new words in the language? Wouldn't take more time, just for a little more focus that would have a dramatic impact on your balance, on your energy, on your confidence, actually in a lot of different areas in your life. Would you be interested in that? Heck yeah, right? So I've got a really fascinating topic. And I will tell you that when Aaron Alexander approached me on this, I was like, really? We're going to talk about posture and body language on a podcast? Huh. But I thought I would give it a go. And I'll tell you what, this is a fascinating podcast. You are definitely going to want to download the show notes on this one. You can get them at jjvirgin.com/align, ALIGN. And you're going to get a 7-day free trial of the Align method of how to put these things in. And again, what I love is I'm not telling you, hey, we're going to add an hour more of work to your life. We're going to actually show you how to make a couple subtle shifts that are going to make big shifts. It's the little hinges shift in the big doors. Let me tell you a little bit about Aaron. I met Aaron literally on a bridge outside of Paleo FX where he's getting ready to jump off of it. Not like in a bad way, in a good way. You'll hear more about that during the interview. He's a manual therapist and a movement coach, and he has helped the world's best athletes, celebrities, and everyone in between relieve pain, increase strength, and optimize their movement. In addition, he hosts the top-rated Align podcast, which features the world's thought leaders on all things movement and wellness, and is the author of The Align Method. And before I dive into that, I want to do a shout out from TX. And TX left this podcast review 5 stars. Lord, I say it like that, LAWD. Lord, I've been missing out. I hope I did that justice, TX. Concise, relevant, and consistent. I send this podcast to my fam in our group chat, and I can't wait to read her books. I enjoy loving on my body to make sure that it is in optimal health. I was brought to this show by a different show, and I'm so glad that I gave it a go. Thanks, JJ. Hey, that brings up something, TX. First of all, thank you so much for the review. And every week, well, we have 3 shows a week now, but before those shows, I do a shout out. I want to shout you out too, but here's how you're going to find out about the show, because someone like TX told you about it. So I so appreciate that you are sharing this show. Super appreciate this. If you're listening to this, go on over, subscribe to JJ, and share it with some people you care about. And leave a review with your name so I can shout you out. So awesome fun. Now, before I dive into the show, let me share another fave with you, and I'll be right back with my buddy Aaron. Aaron Alexander, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing really well. It's rainy, so I'm enclosed inside my home, but it's okay. I'm doing all right. I'm sitting on the ground, which is convenient. I'm stretching my hips out, and I'm grateful to be here with you.
Now I'm so upset we don't have video. This is like ridiculous. So for those of you listening, we tried to do this one on video. And I mean, I just got to share that the first time I met you, you were literally standing on the side of a bridge in Austin, Texas. It was during Paleo FX. You had your shirt off. You were wearing a pair of shorts. And my husband and I were walking across this bridge. And there you were getting ready to jump off the bridge.
Yeah. Yeah, what was wrong with those animals?
Yeah, I was like, now not jump off the bridge and like it's the end thing. It actually was a bridge you could jump off of, but it still was quite something. Wasn't the typical thing to see. And then the next time I saw you, it was pictures of you with my girlfriend Bree, the Betty Rocker, doing some kind of insane yoga, couples yoga, not couples but couples yoga. Yeah. So Acro yoga. Yes. I'm still trying to master basic beginning yoga. So that's probably 5 years down the road. But obviously you practice what you preach here. But what I'd love to start with before we get into posture and why posture is so key to your energy, to your confidence, all these things you probably never even thought about. Like probably most people didn't wake up this morning and think about their posture. I'm just guessing. How did you get into this, Aaron?
I think large amounts of insecurity as a product of kind of just growing up unsure how to be a man and feeling kind of like uncomfortable in my home and various things kind of leading to me seeking validation in the form of muscles. And so I got really obsessed with bodybuilding and then eventually ended up injuring myself from imbalanced practices of like training. Mm-hmm. And then that kind of began another journey of like putting the parts back together. And that's been kind of the mission for the last like 16 years.
Yeah, it's putting your parts back together and then helping other people put their parts back together.
still in process. Yeah.
And I will share with you when I was 17. So I started in ballet when I was like 5 years old. And I did ballet my whole life. So I was on point, which is ridiculous, as you know, because I'm 6 feet tall. And also doing gymnastics, another ridiculous sport for someone who's 6 feet tall. And so I tore my ACL and had 5 knee surgeries. But because of that, I changed my gait. Now, my whole grad work was in biomechanics, right? But I changed my gait and changed then the way I walk. I changed how I impact my back. Everything shifts. And one of the biggest challenges is if you are not actively working on the things we're going to talk about today, you'll get a little imbalance and then you'll shift your gait and then you'll do more of that because doing the other stuff hurts and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So what you're doing is so key important. And I recently went to a biomechanist. Now, this is the most pathetic thing to me because that was my whole graduate work, right? And I went to him kind of sheepishly and he kind of reviewed everything and checked everything. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how did I let this get to this? So my hope today with this call is that people will understand the importance of this. I'm excited to shout out on your new book, The Align Method, and realize that like this is something that you need to pay attention to. Otherwise, at some point, your body is going to put the white flag up and you're going to have to pay attention to it, right?
Yeah, I think people think we kind of look at the body as more of like in like systems theory, be like a complicated system instead of a complex system. We think of the body as more like a complicated system, be like a car or a computer, and something breaks, your carburetor needs to be changed, and you go to the shop and you get a new carburetor and replace that part. In the human body, a complex system, if you change anything, you change everything. So when you have an ankle thing or a knee thing or a pelvic floor thing or, maybe even a thought thing, some type of emotional pattern that causes you to hold your body in such a way that will then trickle through the fabric of that whole system. And so what you're describing there, the beginning, what could start off as like an ACL thing, could eventually translate into, oh, maybe I'm not so athletic, or maybe I'm at risk of injury, so I'm going to sit this out. And then that becomes a habitual pattern. And then I'm not putting this on you at all, but it's just interesting how interwoven everything is.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you have this bold statement that I want to start with, this statement of posture and body language, which I want you kind of to break those two apart and explain what posture is and what body language is. But the statement is posture and body language are powerful tools for building strength, achieving peak performance, reducing pain, and approaching the world with a new sense of confidence. That's not something people talk about or hear every day. And it's a pretty bold statement. And I want to unpack it. But what I'd like to unpack first is posture and body language. How would you define these?
Yeah, so posture is so much bigger than like the common sense of posture would be you have a stick up your butt, you stand straight up and your head back.
It is stand up back. Straight.
Like, okay, I'm doing posture. It's like posture is how you express yourself in any interaction ever. So there's an interesting fellow that I had on my podcast called Paul Ekman. He's like one of the most cited psychologists in the world, particularly around this conversation of body language. And he traveled all around the world and studying people's, particularly their facial postural affects, the way that the posture of their faces. And he came up with there's, over 10,000 different facial postures that we will go through to communicate. And each one of those has a specific translation of the meaning of that face. And so it's just one interesting kind of micro perspective of like, wow, like the postural muscles of my face to communicate. Well, now compound that with, okay, the postural muscles of your shoulders and your hands and your hips. And, as soon as someone is not interested in communicating with you anymore is the moment that they start to look away, the moment their hips start to veer towards the door. Perhaps they start to cover roll their shoulders forward, which is like an indication of protection or just feeling tired, feeling out of it. Perhaps their vision, I'll wrap up here in a second, their vision starts to kind of go blurry, which is an indication perhaps that they're relaxed, but they're also spacing out, as opposed to vision being focused, where they're really myopically detailed, focused on everything that you're saying. So all of those are muscular interactions that are indications of the way that you're thinking and the way that you're feeling. There's no way to separate. If you feel angry or if you feel scared or if you feel proud, you don't feel that in between your ears. You feel that all the way, in your shoulders and your hands and your hips, and every cell in your body feels that. So it's kind of wild. It's more interesting to think of mind and body to be two separate entities. Like that's very confusing to me. So throughout the day, every moment is a meaningful posture. Would be kind of like the way that we focused on posture in the book.
Well, and I think anyone can think of like, I always know when I've been traveling too much when the majority of my massages happen at the airport, but I love those airport massage places. And I think they're awesome. And I'll get there and they're like dig into my traps and they're like, oh, I'm like, listen, I don't need you to judge me. Just like get in there. But anyone listening can just go, oh yeah, when I get tense, you lift your shoulders up to your ears, you tense, so we all know this stuff, but we just don't really think about it. But you brought up like vision and blurry. Like I never would have thought of that.
Yeah, the ciliary muscles around your eyes are continually contracting and relaxing to refract light that you're perceiving. So if you need to focus on something that's like close to you, i.e. your cell phone, computer screen, the walls inside of your house, you will literally have a muscular contraction of those eye muscles in order to bend that light. When you look out into the distance, into the horizon, do your panoramic vision, think of like a bunny rabbit, then your whole nervous system goes into more of this rest, digest, restore, healing type place, because it's telling your body at a deeper level that, oh, okay, JJ is calmed down. She's just taking it all in right now. When we go on the other side of that coin and focus in, that's saying, okay, JJ's hunting. She's pulling the bow back and she's focusing all of her energy on that one point. But now instead of pulling the bow back, it's like focusing all of your energy on that one Instagram post. But nonetheless, it puts you into that more fight, flight, sympathetic, executive function, get her done mode. Both modes are beautiful. We need to have a balance between the two. Most of us in the modern world, because we're in enclosed walls, we're looking at our cell phones, we're looking at computer screens, we're drinking coffee and stimulants and all that. We stay in that go mode, and then eventually you burn the system out. So it's really important to actually express a little bit of blurred panoramic vision every now and again in order to calm your nervous system down. Then obviously there's a bunch of other ways we can do that.
Well, let's like dig into a couple of those ways, because you have the book, and I must admit, I was like going, how do you write a book about this? Like, what is
we did
this?
It.
Clearly you did. You wrote a book about
we did it.
Yeah. So you have the Align method. And I know in the book you have these 5 daily movement principles, because of course I'm hearing this and I'm like going, all right, so you're giving me this information. It all makes sense. It's like, as you hear it, you go, oh yeah, duh, of course. But then what the heck do you do? Like, all right, well, how do I make sure I'm not rolling my shoulders forward and I'm moving in between, blurred panoramic and this tight vision? Like, what do you do?
Well, so the way that we created the book was to make it super accessible, and the first in the introduction, the last paragraph of the introduction, I have like a little metaphor that I've heard before. I didn't make it up. Of when a golfer is hitting a golf ball, that face of the club, if it's off even a little millimeter, you won't really see the change within the first 40 yards or so. But then after 80 yards, 100 yards, you're like, oh my God, like this is where the ball is winding up. Like we really shanked it, or it's right on the green. So on a daily basis, there's all these micro moments where we can kind of subtly adjust the club face of our golf club, by something as simple as like just paying attention to the way in which you sit. For the most part, if you go into like any kind of, the bucket seat of a car or a lazy boy recliner, or
Do people
most chairs,
have lazy boy recliners?
I don't know if they actually
They don't
have
still
those, but
have
just
those,
nonetheless,
right?
I just like the term. Yeah,
I'm
you're right.
surprised you even
You're
know at your age what a lazy
just
boy recliner
couch
is.
in general.
Okay.
Yeah. All of those form us into a particular position. It's not a bad, good position. It just is a position. If you were to look at that position, and especially compound that with throw a cell phone in front of the person's face, there's a photographer that did a beautiful thing where he took, you could look it up on Google. Just look up photographer, cell phone, Photoshop remove. He took the cell phone out of people's hands while they're using it. And what he's found across the board with all these photos that he chose, obviously probably cherry picked, the people look really sad. And a similar thing happens so if you, like a hunter gatherer, whatever, somebody that didn't know what a phone was, if they would look around the modern world and see, people just kind of standing there looking down like that, they'd be like, as from an animal to an animal, they'd be like, oh wow, you're sad. Like, what's going on? How can I help? And then depression is the number one leading cause of disability worldwide right now. That was supposed to happen by 2020, but it happened sooner than that. So I think it's a really interesting mechanical conversation to be had with that. But in relation to like the 5 movement principles that we break down in there, all of them are super accessible. We're already almost doing them. It's just like the slightest little shift of the club face. So
what happens when you shift that? Like when you make these shifts, what are some of the transformations that you'll see? Because what it sounds like to me, Aaron, like fingers crossed, is that some pretty subtle shifts, if you're aware of them, can make some pretty significant changes. Like a little hinge can swing a big door.
Yeah, well, hinging is one of the chapters of the book. That's great.
Wow, well thank you very much.
And in the title of it, it's "Give Me Leverage and I Can Move the World." Archimedes, and so that's an example of that. Would be practicing. When shit hits the fan, your body is going to go back into whatever the habits it's been practicing for the last year, 5 years, however long. And so what we're practicing throughout the day, for the most part, are patterns that wouldn't bear weight very well, very effectively. And if you ever needed to actually use your body in any kind of like athletic, meaningful way, we would have to shake off all those patterns of our day to day and like put on our like be active in our bodies mode. And so something as simple as just paying attention to while you're washing dishes or picking something off the ground would be beginning to utilize that hip hinge. When you're hip hinging, you start to activate those glute muscles, which is good because, who doesn't want like a more robust butt? But the butt,
that is exactly what I wanted to when I woke up this morning. I said, how do I get a more robust butt?
No, real talk. I mean, this kind of gets out there. I don't know how out there you get on your podcast, but
I just have never put robust and butt together. So that's a new one.
I like it. That's a good
All
combination.
Right. Well, there we go.
But I think that's in large part why, prefacing, this is maybe an out there idea, but I think it's accurate, why we find people in general with robust butts, with like a big old badonkadonk, we typically find them attractive because it's an indication at an anatomical level that their body is being used effectively. So they would be able to build a house and they would be able to support their family and they'd be like an asset to the tribe. If their butt is missing from their body, that's the strongest joint complex in your whole entire body. If it's not being used because you're outsourcing that movement up into the spine instead of the hips, that's where it's meant to be to pick up any load. That's an indication. It's like, oh, that body, the operating system on that body is a little funky. So it's a similar thing. Like you update your operating system on your computer all the time. If you saw an operating system where the parts, it's just like, oh, there's something off about that. A simple way to start to get your operating system updated is to start to utilize your hips the way that they've been forever. So that's just one of the chapters.
So how about, I travel like 50, 60% of the time. I mean, maybe even 75% of the time. And so I look at this and I think probably the worst thing you can do for your body is all this traveling between dragging suitcases and, planes and trains and all that. Like, how do you do this and do that?
Well, so dragging suitcases is probably the best thing you could possibly do.
Really? That's so good. I'm so happy. I do
I'd
so
recommend,
much suitcase dragging.
yeah, and then do better. Maybe you have two sometimes or not. Doesn't matter. Try picking it
Aaron,
up.
I always have two. Sometimes I have
okay,
three.
perfect.
Are you kidding?
So you might hate this idea too, but some people might enjoy it. Like if you go to a gym, you would pay a trainer $130 or whatever to have you do farmer carries. So you drive yourself down there and say, okay, coach, what should I do? It's like, today we're doing farmer carries, one of the best functional movements you can do. And so what they'll do is they'll give you two 50-pound kettlebells and you walk back and forth. You're doing that at the airport. So that's one micro example of how we can start to integrate some of these basic concepts that we get from fitness into our daily lives. So if we start looking at that airport experience, maybe a little bit more creatively of how can I make this before my health and well-being, well, a really primary example would be, okay, cool. I'm going to take joy in the fact that I have this strong body with a robust booty, and I'm going to actually pick my back up, and I'm going to do a little micro dose of gym time here, and then I'm going to walk up the steps instead of taking the escalator.
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting, a lot of research that's been done on titrating or putting kind of drops of fitness into your day. There's a woman that I reference in the book. Called Joan Vernikos. She's been the director of life sciences for NASA for the last 40 years. And she found that astronauts that would introduce small bits of fitness into their time and space throughout the day would fare far better than those that would backload or front load that exercise into one big Soul Cycle or CrossFit kind of workout after sitting down all day long. And the ones that would do that, when they're in space and they just backload the fitness, they essentially go into this rapid aging type process where their muscles end up turning to fat and their cognitive function declines and their metabolism slows down and everything kind of goes into this wow, you get back and you age 20 years in 6 months, crazy. But that changes when you integrate small amounts of fitness into your whole entire day. And that's essentially what the book provides for people.
I love that because I remember it was probably 20 plus years ago. And it was when I was in grad school, you had to work out at least 30 minutes a day and get into your target heart rate zone, or you shouldn't even bother. I swear they said that, Aaron. It was so ridiculous. And everything was about target heart rate training, which is also ridiculous. And so then there was a study came out that looked at people who worked out 10 minutes 3 times a day versus those that did 30 minutes a day. And lo and behold, those 10 minuters had better cardiovascular effects, blah, blah, blah. And the whole thing then was well, if you didn't make your 30, at least you made your 10, right? And there is that. It's if you tell people, hey, get in these bursts of exercise throughout the day, they're more likely to do it than if you try to block out an entire amount of time. Then there's also the part of every time you do that, you're likely to put a little more intensity than you would if you were going to space it out, and go, if I have to do an hour, I'm going to take some. So there's so much more to this. And, it's great with all of the different wearables because they basically tell you, get your butt up, get up, go do something. So that's awesome too. I made a point with our new house, my office is up the stairs. And at first, when I put my office up the stairs, I thought, oh, I should bring a fridge up here and I should bring an espresso machine up here. I'll bring all my stuff up here. And then I thought, no, I'm not going to bring any of my stuff up here. I'm going to make myself go down there, up there, down. So all day long when I'm home, I'm up and down the stairs, which is awesome. So, it's just another way. I also love the little exerciser. I would say put that in a place where you'll trip over it, so you have to use it throughout the day. So there's so many different ways that you can fit fitness in, and it all counts. So I love that whole idea. That's fantastic. Now, I know you're giving everybody a step because I feel like you gave them just enough for them to know, okay, this is cool, and I want to start incorporating this. So I love that because I couldn't quite figure out how you were going to make posture sexy and exciting and interesting, and you did it. You did it. Of course, it would have been more fun to see you sitting on the floor, but we didn't get that part. Maybe we can get a picture for the promo. But you do have a 7-day Align program, the trial that you're giving away for free. What's in that?
Yeah. So thanks for mentioning that. So you can start off 7 days and just check out the Align Method Online program, which essentially breaks down how we can start to integrate better movement into our lifestyles. And so the first 7 days gets into like morning routines, evening routines, basic fundamental movement mechanics that everybody ought to have in their daily existence.
Cool.
And yeah,
here's the question. I'm going to put that at jjvirgin.com/align. Super easy, align. And if you don't know how to spell that, ALIGN, incorporating this into your life, how much time does it take?
Well, it's not a time thing, so it's more of a change of filter of the world, so I'm not asking people to do more of
Yay,
anything.
this is great. That's what I thought. That's what I wanted you to say, because I just always want to overcome that, oh my gosh, more to do. No, it's just learning a new language that's going to incorporate and overlay what you're doing, right?
It's just subtly changing your present language. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Yeah, it's not a whole new language to learn.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Couple new words in the vocabulary. Very cool.
It's like a vernacular slang. Right?
All right. Slang. Okay. Yeah. That's fantastic. So reminder again, what I'm going to do is while you were talking about it, I Googled the cell phone thing. So I'll put that link in here as well. Also the link to your book, The Align Method, and the free trial. Yes. So cell phone pictures are really, first of all, there's one, and then I'm not going to tell you any other ones. So you'll go get this from the link, but there is one of this couple and they're on their wedding day. I was like, that is just, please don't let that be me ever. I love one of the groups I go to. They have these boxes and we're actually going to bring them to our mastermind, and they're unplugged and everyone has to put their phone in.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's we're William James said we're habitual creatures. Like once you break that habit, it's amazing how easily all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, I'm not even thinking about it anymore.
Yeah.
But as long as we're in that cycle, so that's why, we're ending the conversation, so I won't go too much deeper or anything. But like, I think fasting can be of value because it's like a strong pattern interrupt. And any kind of strong pattern interrupt like that, putting your cell phone in a box, it helps you kind of get out of the wheels spinning in that same position over and over again.
Yes. Yeah. And fasting is a whole nother conversation, but I'm totally down on that too. All right, here we go. jjvirgin.com/align. Aaron, thank you so much. Now, hang with me, because after this break, I'm going to give you a couple takeaways that you can put into immediate use. All right, I'm getting vulnerable here. First of all, welcome back. So here's where I give you some takeaways. And my takeaway here is I challenge you, and this is one of the things I've been working on. So I'm going to challenge you on it too, because more is not better. It's more. In fact, efficient is better. Quality over quantity. We talk about that all the time around this community, about really figuring out like getting quality sleep, about getting the right types of exercise. And this, I'm so intrigued with what Aaron's doing, because subtle shifts in your posture can make all the difference, from getting more out of your exercise, from having a better mood. So that is my big, big challenge for you today. And I will tell you, I started out in the world of biomechanics. That was my graduate work, was in biomechanics, before I flipped into my doctoral program in exercise phys and started studying nutrition and aging. And so I knew back then, it was what I was obsessed with as a personal trainer and exercise physiologist, is I could make a little shift in a movement and totally change the way I recruited a muscle. And then I got injured. I got injured when I was 17, but then it really blew totally out on a volleyball court in my early 20s. And that's when I completely blew out my ACL. And I went through physical therapy, but I just started to shift and protect that. It's like, because it never was quite the same. Then I shifted the way that I moved with my back. It started to change everything. And I knew it was happening, but, I didn't really know how to change it. Now it's 30 plus years later, and I am doing all this backpedaling. And I realized, gosh, if I just had been super aware all the way through and really focused more on posture and balance instead of protection, it would have made a world of difference. So I want that for all of us. So that is where I'm super excited about all this. So that's my big challenge to you, is get the trial.
go to jjvirgin.com/align. You will get the free 7-day trial. I'm also going to put the link to the book, and I'm also going to put the link to those pictures because I admit it. Like the minute he said that, I'm jumping on Dr. Google, going and pulling up those pictures, and they're really quite stunning. So definitely do that. And one more thing, I want to shout you out at the beginning of the show. I want to shout you out. So leave a review. And while you're there, friends don't let friends have poor posture, right? So share this information. I am out to help 1 billion people transform their health. I'm doing it with the help of a whole lot of friends in the health community, getting out there, getting great information out. In fact, at one point, I think I'll do a roundup of all my favorite podcasts too, and all my favorite blogs. But in the meanwhile, leave a review and share it so that we can get more of this information out there. This truly is a labor of love for me. And one of my dents I want to leave in the universe is to make sure that I've gotten actionable health information out there that can truly help you and your family. Alrighty. See you next time. Bye.